And so today, we are going to resume our series, and actually we're coming very much to a close. Next week we will end the series on the book called All for Love, the 10 attributes of holding compassionate space for ourselves and for others. And so we've gone through. Today will be the 9th attribute, and today's focus will be on bravery, also known as courage. Also, one of the aspects of our spiritual inner power of divine strength. And so I know a couple weeks ago, Reverend Linda Martello-Witsa did a powerful video presentation about the power to stand, right? Where she mentioned the attribute of our standability, being able to hold steady to principles, and about our ability to be courageous and to also have tenacity, or that steadfastness to keep on keeping on when things are challenging in our lives. But today I want to zero in on Matt Kahn's focus of bravery. And bravery in the face, not so much, like the superheroes, but the superhero of ourselves, of facing what is in our life. Whatever presenting, moment by moment, and specifically bravely facing that which is, we would call, unwanted, uncomfortable, and painful, right? Anybody ever had those experiences? No, not at all, right? And Matthew Kahn shares this about the attribute of bravery. He says that through the attribute of bravery, you can move through the discomfort of what is without anything to defend, maintain, argue, negotiate, or avoid. Pretty challenging, right? Sometimes to be with what is rather than push it away, resist it. So what are some of those things we would categorize as unwanted or uncomfortable? Anybody? You can put it in the chat if you're on Zoom. How about a flat tire? Does everybody clap when that happens? Simple, right? A diagnosis of something we were not expecting. Yes. Anything in the chat? Grief, the loss of someone or something important in our lives, right? So we can see that. So I'm going to share a story of something that was unwanted, uncomfortable, and even painful years ago. At the time, I wasn't even finished with being a licensed, the credentialing for being a licensed Unity teacher. I was in the program and I was still teaching in public school, and I was just getting ready to start spring break. Yay! Loved my spring break. And so the minister at the time was dealing with an illness and had asked me to do the Sunday service the following week. So I don't know, it was in the beginning of the week, and I was making cookies. And being the good old Italian I am, I couldn't make a single recipe. I had to quadruple it with a big pot, because the mixing bowl couldn't hold all that dough. And so Matt's shaking his head, yes, he knows that. So, and I am, because the mixer, I now have a KitchenAid, which I love. It does all, you can walk away, and it's doing its thing. But at the time, I didn't have that. So the little handheld mixer was, and I'm shaking, and then it's like, this is not working. So in I go, woof, woof, and all of a sudden, a pain in my shoulder just started to radiate. So anyway, I was like, I couldn't even get to the point where it was very uncomfortable, where I could bake the cookies. So the dough goes into the refrigerator for another time. Well, as the day progresses, the pain progressed intensely, intensely, to the point where I couldn't even move this arm. Even if I went like this, it became excruciating pain. So later that evening, Matt takes me to the emergency room, and there was nothing broken. You have to follow up with an orthopedic doctor, so on and so on. They wanted to give me opioids, codeine, Oxycontin, whatever that is. And I, after having had back surgery, I don't do well with that. I get violently sick. I won't need to get into the details. It just adds another major thing of discomfort. So off I go with something a little stronger than an Advil. The pain was so bad I couldn't recline on my bed. So at the time, I now have an automatic bed. Anyway, love it, but I digress. So in the living room, and there I am on our armchair with the ottoman, trying to get myself comfortable. And now it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in pain, and the monkey mind starts. Spring break, oh my God, can't believe it couldn't happen at the worst time. How am I gonna prepare for the talk on Sunday? Well, maybe you shouldn't prepare the talk. Maybe reach out to somebody. Let me see, who am I gonna call? Blah, blah, blah. My mind's going, and I'm in discomfort, and I'm getting all worked up. And then finally, ding, why don't you turn to some of your spiritual practices? What a concept. Right? When the pain is so intense and it's like right there and you're resisting what is. And I'm not trying to say I wasn't in pain. So I begin breathing. First, just recognizing, grounding myself. And then I begin breathing consciously, not that I was not breathing, but in the deep breaths, in and out, in and out. And then breathing into my shoulder, just noticing. And then as a thought would arise about what I was concerned with, I would say the word thinking. That's a Buddhist practice, right? Thinking. Instead of trying to resist it, trying to be in nirvana, just thinking, just noticing my feelings. And at one point, tears began to flow. And then I went into some heart breathing, right? That heart math breathing, in and out deeply to the count of 5, 6, out to the count of 5, sensing something I appreciate, and for me, I'm remembering holding my boys and then just letting it all go. And then there was just stillness. Didn't mean my pain was gone, but that sense of peace and grace, it was in the background. And a peace and grace was present when I finally could surrender what I wanted instead of being with what was. Surrendering my ego, so to speak. Jesus invites us to the kingdom within, right? Not to the kingdom of the ego. There is a good place for the ego, which we've talked about and I'll talk about later, right? Our personality self. But the kingdom within, when we let go, when we focus, breath, being in, and the only thing we want to do is commune and come from that place of openness. And I was met with grace, which is something that Matthew Kahn shares, right? He says, when bravery leads the way, it instinctively provides you with the strength, endurance, grace, and tenacity to overcome the plight of discomfort, right? Strength, endurance, tenacity, bravery, all aspects of strength. And when we surrender, to have the courage to surrender to what is, And surrendering is our power of elimination, the power of release. It's then I can say, as Teresa of Avila would say, of myself I am nothing. Now, this is not like, condemning ourselves. It's saying, if you read her, entering the castle, of my personality self, I am nada, I am nothing. I must surrender and reach deeper, as Jesus would say, to the kingdom within. Or as Buddha would say, non-attachment, non-resistance, being present to what is. And then we are met, we synchronize, and reach out to that which is greater within ourselves. And so that is not always easy, right? The ego doesn't believe that, because we have talked about before how the ego is the aspect, it's not some devil out there, right? It's an aspect of our human mind, our intellectual mind, and it has a purpose. Some of the purposes, it is that function of our brain or mind that helps keep us organized and structured, right? It is also that aspect of our mind that keeps us safe when there's a perceived threat, right? But lots of times, if we have unhealed emotional pain, or where we don't want something, it perceives it as a threat. And so if we stay in our ego consciousness, anything unwanted or discomfort, it's like we need to destroy it, kill it, resist it, stuff it, pretend it's not here, and then what happens? That which we resist persists, and it actually grows, right? It grows, and then we go into suffering is even more uncomfortable. And it's actually depicted in this video that I'm going to ask them to share right now. And wait, before you do, it's a video of an animated film that was produced in 2022, and the title of the movie is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. And if you get a chance to see it, it's really, it's a beautiful little movie. So here we go.
It's the fox. He's trapped.
Oh dear.
Please be careful.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I am not afraid.
If I wasn't caught in this snare, I'd kill you.
If you stay in that snare, you'll die.
You did so well.
One of our greatest freedoms is how we react to things.
How many of you can relate to the mole? I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid. And I'm not here to be the unity police, but maybe we would say, I am brave, I am brave, I am courageous, right? Don't you love that little mole? And so there's metaphor, right? It's an allegory. There's metaphor here. So we see the mole is that aspect of ourselves, that when we choose to synchronize ourselves and go within, where we reach within to our inner power of strength and courage. You know, he didn't wait for the situation to be different. It was like he was facing what is, right? He didn't have to, go over to the fox. But if we look at the allegory, each of these things are aspects of ourselves, right? So the mole is an aspect of ourselves. That's what we call on to be creative, courageous, to stand in the face of what is, to call upon our power of power too, right? To hold, using all our powers work together to be stable, our power of strength, holding on to our powers of power, which is I get to choose how I will see the situation, how I will think about it, how I will energize it with my thoughts, how I will energize it with my words and I notice my emotions, but which ones am I going to focus on? He focused on, yes, he was afraid, but what motivated him besides his strength? What do you think motivated the fox? You can put it in the chat. Anybody? I meant the mole, sorry. The fox is wanting expression in me. Sorry, no, I'm kidding. A little bit later, no. Anthony, compassion, aspect of our power of love, right? How many times are we faced with that, and do we step into it? Yes, I'm noticing you, because a lot of times we want it to be all gone before we do that, but that's not how it works, right? So, and then grace, right? So the fox meets us. The inner fox is those sly monkey mind thoughts, right? Not this again. I thought you dealt with this. Life is unfair. I work so hard. I can't believe it. I'll never get ahead. We can add them, right? Why is this happening? I'm a good person. Where's God? God forgot about me. I'm not mocking them because I know some of these myself through my lifetime, right? The sly fox, which would tell you, you believe, right? Then you start, like it takes a life of its own. It's like that pain body that Eckhart Tolle talks about, that emotional pain body that takes kind of over. And we think like, oh, we become our, we think we are our experiences. And then we ensnare, we free ourselves, right? He says, never forget what true freedom is, right? Is our power of how we react. And I may choose the word, rather than react, respond. Reacting is when we don't go deeper within. We might come from our woundedness, where we respond, where we take that time to breathe deep. Am I going to choose my fear or my love, my compassion? I will face this. And then what happens, that grace comes in and he's free from the threat of the fox. And in the movie, you see the fox, the mole, the horse, and the boy become friends. They're all aspects of him. So anyway, it's a cute little movie. So how can we empower ourselves to channel our inner mole in our life? How can we be called to be brave moles? And so the first one I'd like to share is some things we just need to be mindful of. We live in a world of impermanence. Impermanence is the physical reality, right? Things change, things end, things break, things die. As physical bodies and human beings, we can experience illness. We can experience injury, the aging process, and that can be painful physically at times, right? When we're dealing with a dis-ease of some sort, and the heaviness of grief of losing someone. And so it's important to remember this, because sometimes when the monkey mind comes in, I just have the really bad luck, right? Just have really bad luck. I can't catch that break. Rather than saying, wow, I've been experiencing one challenging thing after another, I'm going to call my inner mole up even more powerfully. And again, compassion, right? Because it is difficult. I can relate to having one thing after another happening. Compassion. But also sometimes we go back to maybe some myths we might have held about God, like God forgot about me. We make it like a Santa Claus figure that dispenses good or bad based on our behavior. We don't even know how deep that is, right? Or maybe if I didn't, what am I holding in consciousness? And I'm telling you, yes, look at your actions and your behavior, but not to beat yourself up. Because we do live in a world of impermanence, and stuff, or the other S word, happens, right? We know that. So now that I know, okay, I'm just dealing with, physical reality here, we must also, not must, we can choose to know that growth comes with discomfort. Sometimes when you're on the spiritual journey, we think, we're just going to be praying and meditating, and yes, I go into that blissful state in grace, but then we believe that now I can handle whatever comes. Yes, there are going to be moments, but there's not going to be any physical discomfort, or we're not going to face that. And so I want to show you that the spiritual journey does involve discomfort, dying to the old. We could see that analogy like in physical therapy. When I go, or if you go to work out, when you're doing an exercise for the first time, it's like, oh my God, I didn't even know I had a muscle over there, right? And then maybe, like when I used to do the spin, in the beginning, like I couldn't sit for a little while because the bike seat, like after a while, right? And so the monkey mind would say, but the body, the muscles are breaking down to build stronger and new ones. And then a couple weeks later, you're like on that spin bike and you're like, oh my gosh, I am invincible. Maybe you're fitting into a smaller size outfit and you're feeling really good, right? And if you would just listen to that discomfort, maybe you would have stopped. Now, I'm not talking about like just do it, and like that commercial says, know the difference between that and excruciating pain, like your neck, you're not going to go work out, not even if you wanted to. And even when I have gone for acupuncture treatments, I've gone to different therapists, they'll say, you may notice that your pain may intensify before it gets better, and sure enough, I would experience that. And we can even look in nature to many examples. The acorn tree, the acorn is dormant in the wet, cold, barren earth, right? Where there is darkness. And finally, it needs to be cracked open so that the shoots can be exposed to the sunshine so that it may grow. So knowing that, and I just wanted to share the Buddhist teaching, the difference of pain and suffering, if we can have those two come up. So pain is the natural, inevitable part of life, right? Like I talked about injury, the grief, an injury, the muscle strain. But suffering, here the Buddha makes a different distinction, is the mental and emotional response to the pain or any experience we dislike. So then it becomes amplified, right? This is how we build the pain, that's the pain body, that if we do not face it and look at it and heal it or notice it and choose again to go deeper, we will always be living from that fear of the fox, so to speak. And so we move into the third, to allow rather than resist or react. So allowing. When I notice the thoughts coming, why is this happening? It's not fair. All of that. You know the story. I'm never going to get ahead. Am I ever going to, there's that fear of not enoughness, not again, or I don't think it's good enough or creative enough. I can't show it to people, or whatever it may be in our lives. So we notice it. And then we just say thinking. And what do you think just saying the word thinking might do? You could do something else, but with just saying that word thinking, how could that possibly shift it? Yeah, Lindy's saying it helps separate you. This is a thought, and this is not me. I'm having a thought. This is not the truth of me, right? And then we begin to be the observer. oh, I'm going to observe my thoughts. I'm thinking now. And I'm just going to breathe. And because that's what happens when people even meditate. They don't meditate because they say, I can't quiet my mind. It's like, just be present to it, right? And then when we are in that space of allowing, we can move into that breathing, right? Noticing. And as I breathe, there's power in the breath, deep and slow. I can now begin to, heart breathing too, I can then move past the fox brain, the one who feels threatened, the one who wants to destroy, ensnare you, right? And then you can access that which is deeper, and knowing that you're connected always in divine mind. And so then we move into present as the presence, being present, being mindful. Are these monkey mind thoughts, is that my ego? Or is this a truth principle? And I'm going to be present to whatever is. Instead of trying to fight, argue, just going to be present, say nothing, just be there. And then that grace that I talk about, and metaphysically, grace is where we choose again, where we move from being aligned with what is false into surrendering to what is true and holy. And we are met because we have free will, right? And that's the mystery. Because the intellectual mind's like, you want me to do what? That don't make sense. Because we want to have a formula, a plan, right? An Excel sheet. It's mystery we're surrendering to. And then the fifth one is affirm. And Matthew Kahn gives some mantras in the book. And then there's mantras for yourself when it is you are holding bravely sacred space for yourself. And then what you may affirm when you are holding sacred space for another, because that's who we're being called to be with one another. And so here for yourself, he says, I allow the attribute of bravery to transform scared into sacred. You can make it your own in any way. I allow the attribute of bravery to transform what is scary into sacred. No matter how I feel, I can do this. No matter what I'm thinking, I can do this. I could be present to this. And then mine that I used yesterday, centered in courage and peace, I can do this. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. And then with others, no matter how you feel, think, whatever you could fill it in, you can do this. And then one that I used, I know you are brave and strong and that you can overcome this. I know this. So I want to share 2 little mini stories. So I know you are brave and strong and that you can overcome this. So I have a family member the other day, and I've shared stories similar to this where this person was giving me a litany of all their ailments, of all the reasons why they can't do X, Y, or Z. And then this person began to share that the meds that this person was prescribed, he had been missing for several days. And I know that this one particular med, you have to make sure if you're not going to take it, you have to go off gradually. And so I am aware of my pain body, and part of my pain body is remembering this individual having a seizure on the floor one instance, and then my pain body has the memory of this individual gasping for breath after coming out of a seizure, and I needed to call the ambulance. And so when I'm in the ego, it's like I want to conquer it, I want to solve it, I want to get rid of it. And so I would proceed and say, list all the dangers there is in not taking that medication. Offer all the places this person can go for help, so on and so on. And so as I breathed and noticed what was arising in me, I didn't feel that scared in me. And then I just simply said, I know you're brave. I know who you are. And the song, I know your true colors. You got this. You can do this. And there was silence. And there were tears. And he looked at me and he said, thank you. That means a real lot to me. And he walked away. All I do know is there are times with what is that presents itself is really painful and really hard. But in that moment, grace touched us. Love touched us. I know he is more than his pain body. I know I am more than my pain body. And if I can't speak truth and have faith and strength, yes, it is hard, but when I project the pain body, not only does it impact me, it reinforces what he falsely believes about himself. And then the chain goes on, right? And then real quick, yesterday, centered in courage and peace, I know I can do this. It's 8:30 a.m. I get a text from Tom Ciro. It wasn't just to say, hi, I'm thinking of you, although we got to that conversation later. Tom Ciro he's in Virginia, and he's actually moving to Florida now, but he was a former board president of this community, and I guess Church Mutual still has his contact. We have certain sensors in our building. One of them is a water sensor to detect water. So Tom says, hey, the sensor, Church Mutual gave me alert that the sensor's going off, and I'm like, okay, what sensor? Is it the one in the attic? It's like, Matt's at work, and so, my other go-to person is Charlie, who was doing his thing in the field, but getting more information, and he goes, I believe it's in the boiler room. So now I'm like, oh, I don't think I can wait till this afternoon if it's in the boiler room. So, fear started to come up like, oh my gosh, is there going to be water in the boiler room? And I instantly recognized the thought. So this is the blessing of my calling, that I get to live this in my life, right? It reminds me over and over. I see Anthony, who is a pastor, shaking his head. He gets it, right? We teach what we are willing to go deeper in. And so I go in the car, and I just started breathing. And I kept affirming, I choose peace in this moment. Whatever it is, it's going to be okay. And then I dared to put on music, and I was singing, and I was bopping, and I was having a good old time. I am not kidding you, right? And I'm just like, okay, nope. And then I would be thinking, and then the thoughts just were gone. And then I had a moment of words that came that was like, the boiler's fine. Like I wasn't trying to affirm it, it just happened. I'm like, okay. So I come in, boiler room, open the door. Nothing, hallelujah. Because I don't know about this stuff. I know I would figure it out because I've done it before when I was a board member myself. And I'm hearing this buzz, 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 which could also be our monkey mind, right? So then I go and I follow it into the kitchen. And then I'm like, is it over here? Is it over here? And then I open up the sink, and there's the sensor, and it's going off. But lo and behold, there's no water. I'm like, woohoo, this is awesome. I could do this. Yes, I said I could do this. So anyway, long story short, we think there's something wrong with the sensor that need new batteries, whatever. But all is well. I stayed here for a little bit. But that could have been, I wouldn't have had the moment of joy. Who knows? I know I would have handled what was, but instead of making it such a like going into the future, we're going to sell the building, we're going to have to do this, we're going to do that. Not saying that we haven't thought of that, but it's like, let's just be in the moment. And what do you want to do in this moment? I want to sing. So I just share that with you. And so as we come to a close, my invitation to you is, how are you being called to notice the fox, the sly fox? Notice, because it's there to try to keep you safe, but notice when it's your pain body trying to prevent you from your spiritual journey. How will you call forth your inner mole to stand brave, courageous, stable in your power of love, of faith, of strength, in the moment? Knowing doesn't mean you're not going to experience pain, but when you surrender, you know you are greeted by the mystery of the divine, and you are held in ways that you can't put into words. And so I end with these words before we go into meditation, and they are from Gibran. Many of us spend our whole lives avoiding our feelings. Oh, wait a minute, let me start this over. Many of us spend our whole lives from our feelings with the belief that you cannot bear the pain. So we try to avoid them. But you have already borne the pain. What you have not done is feel all you are beyond that pain. You have already borne the pain, but what you have maybe sometimes not done is feel all you are beyond that pain. That is grace, my friends. That is your divine birthright, your nature, the eternal you that rests in the breath of God, because you are the breath of God. And so let us go within, as I invite you to become aware of your breath. Just sensing your inhalation and your exhalation. Noticing if your breath feels cool or warm. Noticing your feet. Are they planted on the ground? Or are they reclined up off of the ground? Nevertheless, feel the energy of their presence, the symbol of grounding to Mother Earth, the physical. Sensing the strength of your being like the mighty oak tree that allows itself to be broken open, the shell that allows, that rests in the cold, in the darkness, but opening nevertheless, sprouting, turning towards the light that is always present, knowing that the dance of the darkness and the light are inseparable. And so grounded in strength, the mighty oak knows that as it doesn't resist the darkness, but blesses it, but turns now through surrendering, turning towards the light for wisdom and strength and growth and transformation. Breathing in and noticing, where has your inner fox needing attention? Embrace it like the mold, courageously, lovingly, compassionately. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Every thought, every feeling. welcoming it as a guest, as Rumi would say, sent beyond for your greatest healing. And in the breath of surrender, as the words of Teresa of Avila, of my false self, I am nada, I am nothing. As I reach deep within, surrendering to that which is whole, that which is complete, my divine essence that knows its oneness with divine mind, God, creator, source, breath of life, I surrender. Let me be brave, let me be bold, let me be loving to myself and others. Let me face what is. Let me be transformed anew as I rest in the stillness. Breathing in and breathing out in conscious awareness, noticing peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding. I call that forth in this moment. And as we affirm our oneness, allow my words to be your words as we affirm together, as I affirm, I am grounded in strength, courageously, lovingly, compassionately, faith-filled and wisely, surrendering to what is. And I am transformed. And so it is, and so it shall be. It shall be. For the crucifixion is always, if we surrender to it, is followed by the resurrection. And as we breathe in and out, sensing your body now, perhaps rubbing the sides of your legs, moving now, rubbing your hands together, holding them above your heart as you bow to yourself, saying namaste. And as we bow to one another, namaste, I behold you as the light that you are. I know your true colors. And so it is. Amen. Blessings, my friend.